The best advice I ever got was it doesn't matter if you're a good salesperson or a bad salesperson, be an effective salesperson. Meaning that when you're done speaking with a prospect, when you leave, they're still thinking about you. They're thinking about the things that you said, the suggestions that you offered, and they are moved to a different place. That is your ultimate goal as a salesperson, not to just close a deal, but to have a big effect on the people that you talk to.
Ooh, I love that, Dan.
How about that, huh?
That's hot stuff. So when did you learn that in your sales career? You said starting out first thing, or when?
Yes. So I used to teach personal development courses, right? I taught a course called Understanding Yourself and Others. I flew around the country and in Europe teaching these intensive 3-day seminars. And that's really where I learned about the human condition, how human beings make choices, and the reasons that we do the things that we do, and the reasons that we don't do the things that we should do. Okay. And so I'm a systems guy. Human beings are just systems. We operate on a series of switches and gears. So that piece of advice was actually about being an instructor, right? It was about don't worry about being a great instructor, just be effective. So that at the end of the course, that they're leaving and go, oh, that Coach Dan Gordon, what a jerk. Or, wow, that Coach Dan Gordon, he was amazing, right? That you get inside of someone. And it doesn't mean like you run over their dog so you have an effect on them, but like it means that your focus is on being in service. And sometimes being in service means telling people the things they don't want to hear.
Yes, it does. So with that, Dan, your whole brand is around badass entrepreneurs,
yes,
serve, and no douchebag selling. So that could not have been how you kind of came out of the womb. How did you come to this no douchebag selling?
No, so I mean, it's funny because people say, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're a natural born salesperson." I'm like, I am not. Look, in junior high school, I was really quiet. I was overweight. I was terrifically shy, and it came to a point in my early 20s where I thought, if I don't make some changes here, nothing's going to change. Just getting older isn't enough. And so that was my foray into personal development. I thought I got to do something that's going to radically shift my world. And that was the start of a big shift. So no, I didn't show up into the world like this. What began to take hold was this idea that I could influence people to live better lives. And that was fascinating to me. That it wasn't just a matter of, oh, I'm going to teach this course or I'm going to sell this thing, that people were leaving conversations with me saying, wow, that's a game changer. And I mean, I still have people from 20 years ago when I taught this course that, I'll see on Facebook and they said, yeah, we remember that thing you said on Saturday. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't, because I work with thousands of people. What did I say? And like, oh, wow, hey, that was really smart. So the point of all this, you have to do something that rocks your world. Like I went to a leadership training and people are like, oh, why are you going to leadership? You're a great leader. Well, because right. And it kicked my ass. It was 4 days, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. And it was really intense. And I know what was intense because on day 2, I was like, I'm out of here. This is crap. I'm not into this. But I knew, right? And this is really important. When you get in a situation that's challenging you and you say it's BS, you're out of here, you have a bunch of reasons why you shouldn't do it, stay in it because there is something beautiful waiting for you on the other side.
Wow. That's so interesting, right? That's, kind of forcing ourselves through the dip and into the goodness so that we can hit that. So with that, I mean, personal development and sales.
Same thing.
What's the connect? Yeah, same thing.
Yes.
Talk to me.
So,
how's it the same?
Anything that you struggle with, Phil, anything shows up in a sales interaction. In fact, forget about personal development. Just become a salesperson. If you can hang in there for a couple months as a salesperson, you're going to learn tons more than you will at any personal development course, right? And then do a personal development course. Here's the thing. how you think of yourself, how you value yourself, what you believe in terms of your ability to influence other people, the value that you place on your product or service. This all comes rushing at you at light speed in the sales interaction because people are going to challenge you. If I said to you, Phil, hey, you should go to this really great restaurant. I love it. You might be like, yeah, I'll check it out. But if I said, hey, Phil, you should spend $65,000 and hire me as a coach. You're like, well, hold on a second. What makes you think that you're worth that much, right? That's going to bring up a lot of stuff. And if I go, well, I mean, I can drop my prices a little bit, right? So standing in the fire of someone's disapproval, standing in the fire of someone's judgments, their thoughts about you, and understanding where those thoughts come from and staying focused on helping them, not protecting yourself. That's where the action's at in sales.
So how do we do that? How do we actually stand in that fire when we want to flee, when we want to get the hell out of here and we want to say, I don't think this is for me. Or to your point, we kind of drop our values, we drop our shorts. We're like, no, okay. I'll charge less.
So don't do that second one. How do you do it? This is a practice, right? This is a practice that I began 20 years ago of being uncomfortable. And the thing I can tell you is to seek discomfort. Look for places where you try something new that doesn't necessarily feel good. And you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You don't even know if the outcome is going to help you, but you stay in the place of discomfort with the belief that something good will come out of it. Now, how do you even get there? There's a few things that I can suggest. I am always seeking for ways to improve, to be more efficient, to ways to improve what I do. I came across something. It's a product called NewCalm, and it's what we refer to as binaural beats, and it is essentially music. And underneath the music are these tones and these waveforms that affect your brain. And look, I was drag kicking and screaming to this. It sounded like crap, right? But they put 40 years into this. The Department of Defense, Special Forces, Navy SEALs, the FBI, they all use this. And these are people who have a lot more stress than I do. And what you do is you put on headphones, you put on an eye mask, and you just listen 30 minutes, an hour. And it improves your sleep, which is the number one thing that entrepreneurs don't get. It relieves your stress, it improves your focus, and improves your performance. So I called them up. I'm like, what is this thing? And I talked with the CEO, Jim Poole, an amazing man that has dedicated his life to helping people with this technology. It's patented, it's gotten approved by the FDA, the only one like that. And so I said, I want to promote this. Can I do that? And he's like, sure. So if you want a 14-day free trial where you can try this thing, and believe me, if you do it, you're going to see results. Just text the word CALM, CALM, to 213-409-8366. Text CALM, CALM, to 213-409-8366. You'll get a link for a free 14-day trial. That's all I'm going to say on it. I don't want to just sit here and take up time with that. But whenever I find something that I love like this, I'm all for it. I mean, I'm talking about this on podcasts. All of my clients use it. I urge anybody, CALM, CALM, 213-409-8366. So
that gets your head straight.
It does. Right.
So talk to me a little more. Like, it's, different beats, but what does that actually do to help us sell?
Right. So our brain operates on rhythms, right? And there's a circadian rhythm. There's all these different things. I don't want to get too geeky on this because I will. But your brain is attracted to new things, right? Like when you're trying to take a picture of a baby and you jingle keys, right? The baby will look at it because that's our thing. These waves attract, their brain is attracted to them and the brain connects with them. And so it gets into a flow state. And that flow state changes the way that your brain is signaling the different parts of the brain, right? We are an emotional species operating emotionally based on external stimuli. So you go into a sales situation, your brain tells you you're in grave danger. You're not, but that's why you're so nervous. Right? The reason that you're nervous in a sales situation has nothing to do with whether or not they buy or sell, and it has everything to do with when we were cave dwellers 2 million years ago. Right? Back then, if we weren't in community, we were dead. Right? We had to hunt together, gather together, defend ourselves together. If you were ostracized from the community, you died. Like that's just the way that it was. So jump forward a couple million years, that operating system is still operating in our system, right? The fear of breaking rapport goes back to that 2 million year cave dweller where we're saying, I'm going to die if somebody rejects me. Right? That's why we don't like rejection. Like, it's why hard to ask out your crush. It feels like you're going to die. When you get your brain into a flow state, when you ease the tension and it changes the way that your brain is communicating with itself about, the stimuli is dangerous. And it says, no, I'm safe. Your stress drops, your fear response drops, you get out of fight or flight, you increase your serotonin, you decrease your adrenaline, and suddenly you're in a space where the words are just coming at you. Like, so I did it before this podcast, right? I do it before every podcast. The reason I'm so articulate is because of that.
Interesting. That's pretty cool, man.
It is. It is
cool.
And so let me tell you about no douchebag selling, because you asked about that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say,
okay.
That's my next question. Yep.
So as I was learning to sell, and like I said, I didn't come into this world as a natural born salesperson. I used to hyperventilate before and after sales meetings. I actually would hyperventilate during sales meetings sometimes. I realized that I was so caught up in the idea of like trying to connect with people, but not being pushy. And it seemed like it was one or the other, right? Like when you go into a retail store, sometimes they're like, oh, you should try this. You should try this. Hey, how about this? What are you looking for? Right? Pushy. The other thing that they do is I'll just let you look. And if you have any questions, let me know. Both of those are terrible. They are terrible strategies. The first one, you're not letting somebody just sort of be in a flow state where they're, okay, yeah, I like this. The other one, what you're saying is you're on your own. I'm not going to help you. And I know that it's a benevolent idea that I'll just let the person think, but you're the expert in the store. So what the solution is saying, hey, Phil, we just got in these new suits. I love them. Can I show them to you? Like you got to check these out. All right. And I show them to you. I love this. Here, try on the jacket. What do you think, man? Cool. Hey, I got to go, do some accounting or, whatever. Just check it out. I'll be back in a minute. Right. So what I've done is I've showed you my expertise. I have an opinion about the suits, right? I'm not saying everything here is great. Then I give you that. Then I leave. I make an excuse to leave so you can process what's going on. Right? Then I'm going to come back. Right? So that's no douchebag selling. Right? It's authentic. And it's not like, oh, you look great in that suit. It might be like, you know what, Phil? I made a mistake. This is not your look. Let's try this thing. Right? Or it's not just what kind of suit are you looking for? It's more like, hey, what kind of event are you buying the suit for? Because I know you didn't just go, I need a suit, right? What's going on? Oh, you're getting married. Wow. Hey, congratulations. Like, how long have you known each other? Where'd you meet? Right. So you begin a relationship based on where the person is, not where you want to take them, not the thing that you want to sell them. Right. So I'm learning about you in my coaching business. When I start talking to people about coaching, the last thing on my mind is closing them as a client. I want to know where they are. I want to know what drove them to want to talk to me. And then I start providing them with a lot of value. Oh, wow. Okay. I see this is where you're stuck. Have you thought about doing this and this? Now, I know that they're better off coaching with me than not, for two reasons. One, I got to be honest, I don't know a better coach than me, because I don't know a coach who has worked this hard to be good at coaching as I have. So I look at it as my responsibility to do everything that I can to connect with them. And the other thing is I just want them to be better, right? I want them to be better in life. And I think that if I stay connected with them, that's what's going to happen. So no douchebag selling is kind of, there's two parts of it. One, it's meeting people where they are. It's helping them from their space. And look, you don't do that naturally. Human beings, by our nature, are self-involved pricks. We just are, right? We have this thing called a survival mechanism inside of us. So we're constantly thinking about ourselves. It's very hard to think about someone else and to think about ourselves at the same time. Like, oh, I want this for you, but I also want this for me, right? So it's this balance, right? Of like, okay, I want you to be great, Phil. I want you to be happy and healthy, and I want your brain to explode with the possibilities of who you can be. And I believe that I can help you get there. I don't know that anybody else can. So we're going to talk about you, but that means that I have to be an expert at listening. It means that I have to be an expert at reading your micro expressions so I understand what's going on inside of you. And that means I have to be courageous enough, instead of just asking you a bunch of questions, to start making bold assumptions. Like, Phil, I got to be honest. I think that when you don't do well, you beat the crap out of yourself. And that really bothers me, because I see your greatness. I don't think you do. And I'd really like you to go easier on yourself. Like, I'd like you to be more of your own best friend, because kicking yourself in the ass is not how you become successful. It's how you get close to it. But the rest of the way has to be with appreciating who you are. Does that make sense?
Sure. That
Now,
makes sense.
just out of curiosity, does that ring true for you?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And it's fine if it doesn't. Like, I wasn't really doing a deep dive on you because we haven't had that authentic conversation, but that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Now, what if I'm completely wrong? Like, what if I made this bold statement and you're like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm my own best friend. It's like, wow, okay, great. I really was off on that one, huh? Like, let me tell you why I thought that. Is that okay? Right. So now we're beginning another conversation based on the fact that I got that wrong, but it's still at the level of authenticity. We're still having a conversation about what's going on. Now, the only way I can do that if I'm not beating myself up about, ooh, I got that wrong. Oh, what's going to think? So I had first called this selling with authenticity, authentic sales skills, the authentic entrepreneur. And I'm like, no one's going to buy that. I thought, well, what's this really? What do people hate about selling? Well, they hate douchebags. No douchebag selling. And so understand that a big part of your success at sales is being interesting, not explaining what the product is, but being interesting. We've come to a place in life and in our culture where being interesting is more important than being good. And that's a shame. But you have to be both. But you have to be interesting first. They used to say, if you build a better mousetrap, people will be aligned to your door. That's not true anymore. If you make a more interesting mousetrap and it's crappy, people will be aligned to your door, and and the other person has this great mousetrap going, why is no one buying this? This is awesome. That other one is crap. It was more interesting. No douchebag selling is more interesting than selling with authenticity. So I'm sharing this because I want your audience to think about what's the interesting part of what you're selling. Not the features and benefits. Forget about the features and benefits. Nobody cares about the features and benefits but you. What's the interesting part of what you're selling?
That is interesting. So with that, I downloaded your 10 tools for making super easy sales. And one of the things that you said in there in tool 3 is that a sale is not like any other conversation, which based on what you just said there makes a lot of sense, because we're listening, we're making bold assumptions, we're doing that. So tell me more about that, Coach D.
So there are rules of a sales conversation, just like there are rules of any conversation. Now, we know the rules of most conversations. Like if you get pulled over by a police officer, there are certain rules of that conversation. If you apply the rules of conversation that you use with your wife, you may get hauled down to the, to the prison, right? Because if you're calling them honey or, saying, gosh, you look beautiful, right? Those rules, they don't fit. We know that. We know that intuitively because we have those kind of conversations, right? We know how to deal with authority figures. We know how to talk to our loved ones. Because sales conversations are a lot more rare and fewer people have them, they don't know the rules. So they try to start bringing in the rules of other conversations and they don't work. So one of the most important rules in a sales conversation is you don't answer people's questions. Now that sounds crazy, doesn't it?
That does sound crazy.
Right. Because if somebody asks a question, why wouldn't you answer it? And the reason is that most questions that people ask in a sales conversation is designed to torpedo the sale. Now, why? Human beings, by our nature, want to maintain any position or any status that we're in, right? Going back to the cavemen, if you found a safe path from your cave to the watering hole where there weren't wild animals or a warring tribe or something, that's the path you took every time, right? Doing what works is how we are built, but it's also kind of our demise because look at Radio Shack, look at Sears, look at Blockbuster Video. They're all gone because, well, this is the way that we do it, right? It works, right? You have to be in a constant state of evolution if you're an entrepreneur. So back to sales. When you're helping someone step into a new way of being by connecting with your product or service, their natural mechanism of self-preservation is saying, don't do this. Don't do anything new. It's dangerous. There's bells and buzzers and alarms going off in their head. So the first thing they're going to do without even realizing it is try to torpedo the sale so they don't have to put themselves in a situation where they're doing something new, where they believe they could die. Okay. So what you have to understand are the questions that are designed to torpedo the sale and the questions that are closing questions. Closing questions are, do you have a payment plan, right? Where I don't have to pay everything up front. That's a closing question. That's a buying question. The person is already in the mindset of, oh, okay, this is what I want. How can I make it happen? A question that's designed to torpedo the sale is something more like, well, how long have you been in business? Or, what's your success rate with real estate, as a coach? Have you ever worked with a lawyer? Right? That's designed for me to say, well, no, but I can work with anybody. Or if I say, well, yeah, I've worked with lawyers. Okay, what kind of lawyer? Right? Have you worked with this kind of lawyer? No, I haven't. Okay, well, then, right. All those questions are designed to get somebody out of a position where they have to make a decision, where the decision could be wrong, and right? All those things. So I'm going to give you a tool that you can use as a salesperson anytime you run into a question that's designed to torpedo the sale. And again, most of them are, right? Because if you don't answer the question, what do? You can't ignore them. Right? So Phil, we're in a sales conversation. You come at me hard. Like, well, have you ever worked with a podcaster? Like, I'm a professional podcaster. Like, so how do you coach a podcaster? Right. And instead of going, oh, okay, right. I'm like, hey, Phil, I get it. I understand. Like, this is a big decision to work with me. And you're going to come up with a million different reasons not to. And we have to explore those decisions. Like that's what's important. But the thing I want to help you with right now is not to just throw this whole idea out because you're not going to get the help that you need. It's okay if you don't end up as a client, but I don't want to end the conversation because that's not good for you. All right. So let me back up and show you what I did. And by the way, you were nodding your head, meaning that you were with me on that. Right? Notice that if you came at me that way, I'm not answering your question. And when you don't answer the question and you take it in a different way with that, hey, I get it, and really start talking about what they're experiencing, they're not going to go back to the question because the question was BS. If they do go back to it, then you probably should answer it because either they're stuck on it or it was a real question. But 99% of the time, when I reframe the question in terms of what's really happening authentically in the moment, which is you're feeling fear, that's where the conversation goes. That's why you don't answer their questions. That's why you open something with a phrase that's designed to go deeper. Now that I've created over 25 of those different phrases. And if you would like, you who are listening, you may download them for free. There's nothing to buy. There's no funnel that you're going to go into. Just text the number 25 to that same number, 213-409-8366, 213-409-8366, and text 25. Now, that ebook that you downloaded, Phil, everybody can get that too. Text SALES, SALES, to that same number, 213-409-8366. Are you detecting a pattern here, Phil?
I kind of get the number. Yeah, I do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very cool. Very cool. So, Dan, you gave us a lot of value today. Let's help folks get started on this path towards no douchebag selling. Like, what's the first couple things that they need to do to get closer to being less of a douchebag?
Well, okay. So first of all, understand that you might be thinking right now, well, I'm not a douchebag because I'm not pushy. Ironically, that is kind of douchebaggy because you're not helping somebody, not being pushy. Approaching sales with not being pushy is like trying to learn how to play basketball by not doing any of the fouls. It doesn't teach you how to get the ball in the basket. It just keeps you from doing the wrong things, right? So you got to get this idea out of your head of, I'm not pushy. I'll just let people make up their minds. You know, when they're ready, they'll buy. That's not how it works. You know, Dr. Martin Luther King didn't say, hey, when people are ready for civil rights, they'll do it, right? You know, he got out there and he's like, I have a dream. And the subtext was, this should be your dream too, right? So you have to be a little pushy. You have to be relentless and determined if you want to be in the helping people business. And in sales, you're in the helping people business, right? So to begin with, just to dip your toe in that water, begin having substantive conversations with your prospects. And what that means is, like, hey, Phil, what is it that you really want out of this podcast? And I bet it's more than just a bunch of listeners. What is it?
Yeah,
okay.
Right? That's good. Yeah, that's a deep question. Yep.
Right. That's a substantive conversation. Now, notice I'm not saying, Phil, you need a coach to get really good at this. I'm asking you to ask yourself a question that will lead to a deeper and more authentic conversation with me, right? So anybody that's in business did not get into that business for the purpose of selling something. Selling something allows them to continue doing the thing that they love. When you when you understand what they love, and you have a product or service that can directly affect and improve that thing that they love, now you're on the road to making a sale. If you do not have a thing that does that for that person, don't sell them something. That's douchebaggery. Now, last thing, a sale ends in one of three ways: a yes, which we all like; a no, which is good information. Like, if I get a no, I want to definitely understand why that no happened. Like, how did I fail that person? Because I'm going to take that no and what I learned from it and use it in my next sales experience. And the third way that a sales ends is the next interaction, unless it's a no. The next interaction happens when someone says, look, I just got to think about this. I'm overwhelmed. You've shared a lot. I got to think about it. Right. What I say is great. I don't do anything without thinking about it. Like I don't just hop in my car and start driving and hope I end up at Disneyland. Right. If I want to go to Disneyland, I'm going to, put it in the GPS at least. Right. And I said, great. Let's talk next week so we can talk about what you thought about. I'm really curious. And I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to book us a call, right? I have a calendar system. I'm going to book us a call. And if it's not a good time, you'll get a little email. There's a reschedule button. Click reschedule. So this is the process that I use. And I move people towards a yes or a no, but I do not let people ghost me because that is inconsiderate. And if you're thinking, well, I don't want to bother them, they would contact me if they were interested, you're selling someone out. If you believe in your product or service and you believe it's good, then you stay with them until they give you a no. Because even that experience is going to put them in a courageous space where they do something new and different. That's your job.
That's your job, to get a no or a yes. Either way.
Your job is to be effective. It's where we started this conversation. As a salesperson, your job is to be effective, to affect someone's life so they are connected with your product or service, living a better life, or they're headed in a different direction that is a new direction than they had before they started talking with you.
Fantastic. Well,
go
ahead. You got one more?
Last thing. Yes. One last thing that you can text to that number. And if what I've said is of interest to you and you're bold enough and courageous enough to want to have a 15-minute call with me, and I guarantee you at the end of that call, you will not be a client because that's not what that call is about. But I will show you a glimpse of how badass you can be. If you want that help, just text the word help, HELP, to that same number, 213-409-8366. Now, remember, sales, SALES, calm, CALM 25, or help to 213-409-8366. These are all gifts to you, right? This is my mission, to expand the consciousness of the planet, and to do so by challenging the illusions that you're under as to what you believe you can't do. We all live in a self-created matrix, a prison cell of our own thoughts. And when we move beyond those thoughts, when we challenge ourselves in whatever way, we become a greater version of ourselves. We stop blaming other people. We have better relationships, create better families, better children, and that creates a better world. That's what I'm here for.
That's pretty freaking awesome. Well, great stuff. I've got the number on the bottom of the screen there. If you want,
thanks, brother.
With Coach Dan, 213-409-8366. Just text help. And Dan, you've been a big help today, my friend. Thank you so much for spending time with me.
It's been a delight, brother. Thank you.